Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy.
Back again.
Yeah, we're doing 3 shows now, so it's quite a lot of work and a lot of information gathering.
Yes.
If anybody watched my show this morning, which was I think 4 or 5 people, the sound didn't work for the first 5 minutes. Eventually, I figured it out. Hopefully, we don't have that problem tomorrow.
Or right now.
Some of the big stories tonight, we have Lady Gaga did a concert in Rio, and there were some pretty dramatic events that almost happened but were thwarted.
Yes, and also Rafa, already here waiting for you, and my friend Walker. Thank you so much for following us over. And to anybody that's new, please remember, subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel as well for an English audience, because then again, it's Canadian, Mexican.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to watch my morning show, it's just me. It's a different set. And I talk kind of morning politics of all the information I was gathering. This segment now is throughout the day, I gathered a lot more information. So I spend a lot of hours now gathering news information.
Yes, and trying to make everything kind of function.
Okay, let's get into Lady Gaga here.
Give me 1 second while I...
Okay, I'll start the story off where you set it up.
Yes.
Lady Gaga's free concert in Rio's Copacabana beach draws a record-breaking 2.5 million people. So this was a ton of people.
Yeah, and apparently she broke the record that previously Madonna held at the same venue of the Copacabana beach with some other million. But yeah, it's marked the pop star's first performance in Brazil in over a decade. So, I mean, she's going over there with her Mayhem tour, which apparently has a lot to do with demons and...
Witchcraft.
According to Guy, witchcraft, stuff like that.
I was going to say this was a lot of people, and I think one of the big reasons she was actually able to pull it off and beat the record was because the Olympics was recently there. I mean, not recently, but a few years ago. And when the Olympics did come through, they really had to revamp their entire infrastructure for major events like this. Not that it's perfectly safe or the city can easily hold events this size, but the fact that they did have the Olympics come through, that made them really revamp the entire infrastructure of the city.
Yes, and also the event is now the highest attended concert by a female artist in history. I hate when they say by a female artist. If someone already did it as a male, then don't say, oh, she's the first female, though. Surpassing Madonna's 2024 performance at the same venue, which drew 1.6 million. The largest crowd in history is still held by Rod Stewart, who drew 3.5 million fans, a man, to a New Year's Eve performance at the beach in 1994, according to the Guinness World Records.
Yeah, so this seems like
a lot of people flew in. So 500,000 little monsters, as they call themselves, flew in for the show.
Yeah, so it seems like a popular spot to throw big concerts at. When they're trying to break
iconic.
Records.
I mean, there's songs about it as well. The Copacabana beach.
Well, let's go into
the Copacabana.
I know nothing.
You don't know that song?
No.
Let me know if you know that song I'm talking about.
Okay, let's go into the next story because it is connected. Not that I'm trying to move on, but the next part of this story is actually the interesting part. Rather than Lady Gaga and her witchcraft. Lady
Gaga, BOMB plot targeted LGBTQ crowd.
Oh my God.
Third person planned Satanist ritual, ending of life of a child, Brazil authorities say.
You got quite the article because when I...
This is from CNN.
When I wrote this, I was like, there was a boom boom thwarted.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize they're going to put LGBTQ, Satan rituals,
well, because most
children.
of her crowd is part of the Alpha Male community, so...
Yeah.
You want me to read about it?
Yeah, let's read about it. Do you want me to read about it? Yeah, well, that's the show.
2 people arrested on suspicion of planning... Let me just put her up there. Planning an attack at a Lady Gaga concert in Rio de Janeiro. We're targeting LGBTQ plus people, police said on Sunday. According to the civil police of Rio de Janeiro, the pair had attempted to recruit people, including teenagers, to carry out coordinated attacks at a Saturday concert using improvised explosives and Molotov cocktail tails. The goal of the planned attack, according to the police, was gaining notoriety on social media.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. There's 2.5 million people there, and you're telling me that these people have a boom boom, and they're trying to target one little...
Well, because they think like a Lady Gaga concert is basically a stew of the alphabet community.
But there's 2.5 million people. They're just targeting. They're just targeting everybody that's there.
But it would be a good place to find a lot of them.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in a separate development following police searches at 9 addresses across Brazil, a third person who allegedly planned to carry out a Satanist ritual by ending the life of a child or a baby during the concert was charged with terrorism offenses, according to Brazilian police. And then 2.1 million people. She's a staunch advocate for the alphabet community. Yeah, she said she would take a pew-pew for them.
Yeah, and Lady Gaga, as of recent, has been a lot of witchcraft has been swarming around her, as well as Beyonce. So it's just interesting because I do.
Well, Beyonce's on her whole, what's it called? Like Texas, I'm a cowboy kick.
I'm a white witch now.
Even though she's trying, Beyonce, she's trying.
Yeah, she turned white.
She's trying to pretend like she's a cowboy.
Yeah,
she's
okay,
she's doing her whole Texas thing, which is a lot of people who are actually fans of. It's not rodeo music.
Country music.
Country music, thank you. That are actual fans of country music are coming out and saying she's disrespecting the whole genre. She's trying to get rid of it. She's trying to make it seem like it is, but it's not. Etc.
Well, yeah, I remember when we reported on that, there's rumors swirling around the fact, I think it was a Grammy she won, or she won some award for that album, and it's rumored that Jay-Z bought her the award. Because there's no way that she deserves an award for that country music.
Well, now I'm sure they're both,
not that she's not a good artist with her regular music, but her country album, please, come on.
I don't like her music at all. I don't like her at all. But apparently now her and Jay-Z are probably, hanging from the ceiling lamps because of the whole Diddy thing. So the jury selection started today and the trial is happening soon. Again, I don't think, and I've said it in Spanish, a lot of it will come out of it. It'll be similar to like the whole Epstein thing where lots of people are protected. Maybe because P. Diddy, maybe it's speculation, was an asset for the U.S. government and now they're burning him.
He definitely was an asset.
But I have to say it's speculation.
And I don't know if they're burning him because it looks like he might get out of this. So they're maybe reassessing.
Well, I said in Spanish, maybe they could send him to Alcatraz.
Okay, let's move on because it's a little bit of a shorter show and we do have a lot of articles.
Yes.
And we were able to get the Rumble connection or RUMBLE connection working?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So at the end of the show, we do have a couple articles that we're not able to talk about here. So we will be heading over to RUMBLE.
Yeah, but on my Spanish one, since it's like just an hour, we don't, I won't be going to RUMBLE. And I also censor myself a bit more, but I try to explain what I'm talking about,
Yeah, we just don't have time between
covertly.
shows. So we go at the very end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into the next thing. Did you want to talk Met Gala or did you want me to go to the crazy liberal?
We can talk about the Met Gala tomorrow just because then we can see the ridiculousness of it all. But again, I mentioned it in Spanish. I do just think it's a lot of virtue signaling, especially with the theme they selected. And now I'm sure a lot of people will be offended because they'll find a way to be offended.
Okay, you can go to my computer. I just love this clip and I had to throw it in here.
I forgot about that.
Okay, hopefully my sound. Oh, 1 second. I have to fix my sound.
Meanwhile, we get to stare at this lovely creature. This one really, I heard a second of it and it really threw me for a loop.
I'm so glad someone's finally asking this question. My problem
might get
is
copyrighted
that I'm too
for the song.
too successful in my career. I make too much money. I have too many amazing friends and family, too many cute clothes. Do you know how hard it is to choose an outfit each day? I also have so many amazing and hot people sliding into my DMs every day. It's time consuming to respond to all these messages.
Oh my God, this is just crazy.
Honestly, I've had it too good for
her chest hair is off the chart.
My life is so wonderful and I only have 24 hours.
Where I'm not 100% sure what it is.
Well, it's
one of the first ones where I'm like, what?
This is a true non-binary individual.
But facial-wise, it makes me think it's a guy that took hormone, had a boob.
I don't know. This is just crazy.
I do know there's women that can grow, extra body hair, especially if they have PCOS or something similar. But, I don't know.
Okay, and
Let me see if anybody said anything about that. Rafa says, I know it, believe it's from Barry Manilow. Yes, thank you. So Rafa knows Copacabana. And Rafa also says Nightmare Fuel. Exactly. I think that's only why he wanted to play that one.
Well,
to give people nightmares. Hopefully we don't get copyrighted.
Once in a while, I'll look for crazy clips like that. That one popped up and it just made me cringe.
Yes.
The fact that she says she's just too hot, like, come on now.
He, she, and them, they, whatever.
Okay, let's go into Thunderbolts and Sinners. Like, you pairing
You
these
keep
two.
talking about Sinners too.
I'm gonna
And we
go
still
watch
haven't
it.
gone to watch it. If you want me to go see Thunderbolts,
Did Rafa watch Thunderbolts?
oh yeah, Rafa, did you watch Thunderbolts? Because I'm willing to go watch. I was gonna say it in Spanish and I forgot. I'm willing to go watch it even if it's by myself, just to eat popcorn. Like there's some movies I will just go so I can eat popcorn and have an icy. But if anybody wants us to go watch it, I'm willing to go watch it just to make fun of it.
Okay, so I think Sinners hit $90 million now, so it's not dropping off week after week, and this is really a testament to a good modern movie. It didn't have the budget or the promotional budget these other movies did. It also didn't have the wide release of Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts was released in 4,300 cinemas. A lot of people might not know, but that's an ultra-wide release. It didn't have any competition that had 3D capability or IMAX capability. Therefore, it was able to monopolize all those theaters, meaning it should make more money, but Thunderbolts didn't. It made $76 million.
And apparently now, I think, I'm not sure because I didn't have time because I was doing all the multiple shows. It seems like Marvel wants to try to change the name of Thunderbolts to the New Avengers, I think, but I have to look into it and maybe talk about it when I see it or tomorrow. But yes, with Sinners, it continues to generate impressive box office numbers. Outkick needs to find an editor. Numbers. The film shot out to an opening just north of 48 million and still going strong weeks later. The film earned 179,728,722
And those are old numbers as well.
domestically and 57 million internationally through this past Sunday. No, so this is for today.
Okay.
That brings the film's total to 236 million, blah, blah, blah.
And the fact
budget is believed to be around 90.
Yeah, and this movie is doing very well domestically because it is a good movie. It's a lot like Dusk to Dawn, supposedly, but it is struggling internationally. And why is it struggling internationally? Typically, African-American films struggle with an international audience, especially a Chinese audience. So, are you okay?
I just spilled all over myself. So if you see, it's spillage.
Okay, let's keep going. We're going to Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz, and you did a whole segment I seen in Spanish, although I couldn't understand it.
Yes, so Trump says he is directing Bureau of Prisons to reopen Alcatraz to house ruthless and violent criminals.
Yeah.
And the left is having a meltdown.
So I also talked about this morning on my morning show. I didn't know anything about it. I literally got the information before I got on air, but now it
Because
seems...
he said it yesterday, I think, like very recently.
Yeah, I got more information tonight about it. And what he's planning to do is, I believe, tear it down and completely rebuild it.
I forgot to say that in Spanish.
Which I said that they would need to do it because it's way too old. It's literally a historic site at this point. I think this is an absolute great idea, especially when you're trying to promote law and order. I don't know about putting a supermax facility there, maybe a more low security prison, but we all do know where it's located in San Francisco.
But the reason they want to use Alcatraz is because of the historical lore that comes with it of being this super high max, like high profile prison back in up to the 60s that housed like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly and all of those, renowned gangsters of New York and of the U.S. in general. But
now
I think that's why it would be useful to have it to continue with that historical.
Yeah, we'll see.
Lore.
But it's really small to put a Supermax on there is why I'm saying. You can see the island there, and Supermax prisons are completely designed differently now. And so it'd be very interesting.
It used to house 336 prisoners.
That's nothing.
The most it ever had was 302.
Yeah. There are historic prisons in the United States like Sing Sing and San Quentin and the Supermax that was recently in the news because of the organized crime gangs having bullets in that area, and potentially there was talk, were they going to try to jailbreak El Chapo? Now, I don't know if that was going to happen, but that's one of the more famous Supermax prisons in the United States. Mm-hmm. So,
because I mean, maybe they could move all of these high-profile ones to Alcatraz.
Well,
and make it like a whole show.
It's too small. The island, you wouldn't know.
No, but you put 200 in there of super high profile
and make a show.
Yeah. I mean, if he's actually going through with it, because half of me thinks he's trolling.
Oh, he's definitely going through with that. That's a great idea. And
I think he might be trolling.
It's not going to cost that much to do it either. So I think it's a great idea. No.
at least he's gotten a lot of the Democrats like
it's something easy.
all up in their
It's
panties.
something easy to do. You can easily get funded for and get a lot of media attention. We've talked about it 3 times today.
Yeah, but I said that he might just be doing it for that to distract from some other thing he might be doing right now.
Okay, let's go to Mark Carney now. And I believe I have a clip of this one.
Okay.
So you just go to my screen and then we'll talk about it a little bit and then I'll play it. So censorship is definitely coming to Canada. We talked about this. Before Mark Carney took office, they already had the bills written. They had been rejected a few times and they keep rewriting the bills and putting them up. They want to introduce major hate speech laws for online hate speech, and they want to have huge sentences. They also want to avoid the court system by having tribunals do the sentencing, which seems absolutely crazy to me. But you're going to hear Mark Carney talk in here and talk about hate speech and a lot of words that he's going to try to prosecute people on for that are really very vague. And this isn't free speech. This is like starting to infringe on people's rights, I would think.
American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe,
Okay, that's your headphones, so it doesn't matter what I do.
secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
Okay, and that's it. And the reason I know a lot more about this is because I follow Canadian politics a lot. So what he's saying here is he knows that these bills are already ready to go. So they've really tried to already censor and work with Google, Meta, and all these other major players. X just rejected them, and so did Rumble. Rumble was actually a Canadian, or RUMBLE was actually a Canadian-based company, and the owner was Canadian as well. He's now moved the whole organization down to Florida because of the laws that are coming in. They're going to be extremely draconian, and I'm almost expecting something similar to what is happening in the UK with memes and things like that.
And they already put a lot of crazy censorship bills and laws into place with like Bill C-811, Bill C-36, Bill C-63, S-201, I believe. So like there's a lot in the pipeline already, and now he wants to bring in more to protect
Yeah, and I
Canadians.
don't really care if people say racist things or homophobic things or whatever they want to say. Words are words, and once you cross the line into actual violence, that's the line where we need to prosecute. If you do call for harm for somebody or taking the life of somebody, that again is already considered a crime, so you can prosecute on that.
Mm-hmm.
But to have these broad-based hate speech laws, that's just completely
Because
getting
hate
rid of
speech
free
can be
speech.
whatever the government that wants to enact it thinks hate speech is. So like they come up with a definition, and it ends up being way broader than a lot of the people that are even for it think it will be.
Yeah.
So it's like treading on very dangerous ground.
And this was the thing, I didn't know if we talked about this manufacturing. It seemed like I had talked about it
What?
on
The vehicle
Friday. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about the whole EV thing for Canada, but we didn't talk. Oh, maybe you did. The phasing it out.
Yeah.
I think we did talk about it, but essentially Mark Carney wants to start phasing out vehicles that were built before 2000
Before the year 2000.
and bring in an EV, electric vehicle mandate.
No, yeah, well, maybe we'll go more in depth here.
Okay.
So he announced today that he wants to phase out all vehicles from the year 2000 or earlier. He also wants to make rear window tent illegal and any raised trucks illegal. So you can't have a lifted truck for work or anything like that. They're too dangerous for Canadian roads right now. Although like there's massive snow in a lot of Canada, so you're going to make these trucks illegal. In some places you can only drive in a lifted truck. But also next year, he's going to put a $20,000 tax on any gas-powered vehicles. So people aren't going to buy new gas-powered vehicles. He's getting really authoritarian. He's going to creep with it, and he's only been in office a very short time.
And it's also very hypocritical because, as I've mentioned in other videos and stuff, his own investment firm essentially buys and pays and is investing in pipelines all around the world, except in Canada, where he now wants to ban them and get rid of oil and get rid of any chance of producing and exporting Canadian things.
Well, not just Canada. He is the behind the scenes, architect of a lot of the financial systems in the West. People don't know how involved it was in all this. So all the countries that adopted this green energy movement, and the U.S. was supposed to be the center, and Trump has just crushed that plan. So is this green agenda going to hold up? I don't know if his architecture is going to hold up, but he has the EU, Australia, Canada, and a few other smaller countries on board with this, where they're going to have a carbon tax, and they're only going to trade with other countries that also follow these carbon laws. So we'll see what happens.
Probably covertly still do trade with India, trade with China, trade with all the other ones they say they're
without the U.S. on board, that those economies just aren't robust enough. And also, he's invested in certain sectors within countries he's manipulated the economy for, like these green energy economies. So he knew where to invest oil money and things like that into Saudi Arabia, into Brazil, into South America. So he's basically manipulating the entire global economic infrastructure, so he knows exactly where to invest money. And I'm not talking about his personal investments. He's actually the financier that dictates where a lot of money goes for some of the biggest investment companies in Canada, actually the largest investment company in Canada. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Then quickly, Rafa says, I believe about Thunderbolts. Oh yeah, it's cool, but the ending is pretty cringy. We should go watch it. Review it. I'll try to go watch it. And maybe review it. Yes. It'll be fun.
No. It's too late for the review. Nobody wants to see it.
I'm sure somebody will see it.
Okay, maybe we'll go into, I guess, Danielle Smith. I'm going to keep talking about this story every day in one way or another, because I do support this movement. And if I ever go back to Canada, they'll probably arrest me for supporting the movement. But Danielle Smith today, she's the MP of Alberta. Basically, she kind of...
the governor of Alberta.
Kind of like the governor of Alberta. And she came out with a statement today. It was absolutely phenomenal. She really threaded the needle on this one. There's so much federal propaganda coming at Danielle Smith because she is supporting this separatist movement without actually saying she's supporting it, which is really smart. She's basically saying there's three kinds of Albertans. There's people that don't want to leave Canada, people that do want to separate from Canada and become independent, and then people like her that want to renegotiate the deal they have with Canada, which is smart.
As a province.
Yeah. Because they basically take all of Alberta's oil money right now and distribute it for the rest of Canada, and then tell Alberta, you can't drill for any more oil. Yeah. Because it's bad for the environment.
So socialist redistribution policies that Canada is famous for.
This was a phenomenal speech. If you are interested in it, I would recommend watching the full 20-minute speech. I was only quickly able to find a short clip. It's not even the highlight of the speech, but I'll let you guys watch a little bit of it. Okay, let's...
Alberta will be taking steps to better protect ourselves from Ottawa. As a start, I will soon appoint a special negotiating team to represent our province in negotiations with the federal government on the following reforms requested by our province. We hope this will result in a binding agreement that Albertans can have confidence in. Call it an Alberta Accord, if you will. First, Alberta requires guaranteed corridor and port access to tidewater off the Pacific, Arctic, and Atlantic coasts for the international export of Alberta oil, gas, critical minerals, and other resources in amounts supported by the free market.
They basically have been refusing Alberta to build a pipeline to the coasts, so they're only able to build pipelines to the United States. Therefore, they only have one buyer for their oil and natural gas, and the U.S. won't pay market price for it because they know they're the only buyer. They can undercut the price.
Then by the dictates and whims of Ottawa. Every province in the country, other than Alberta and Saskatchewan, have coastal port access, and no province needs it more given the size and value of our resources. This will benefit all Canadians to the tune of trillions of dollars of economic activity, including billions for First Nations partners. Second, The federal government must end all federal interference in the development of provincial resources by repealing the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, the oil tanker ban, the net zero electricity regulations, the oil and gas emissions cap, the net zero vehicle mandate, and any federal law or regulation that purports to regulate industrial carbon emissions, plastics, or the commercial free speech of energy companies.
She's basically trying to save Canada from these crazy net zero policies, and Mark Carney has said he's not backing down on these net zero policies or these carbon taxes, and this is kind of set to cripple Canada. Alberta says you better give us special privileges for our oil so you don't bankrupt us, or we want to leave, which is very smart.
These laws are destroying investment confidence and costing Canada and Alberta hundreds of billions in investments each year. They need to go. Third, the federal government must refrain from imposing export taxes or restrictions on the export of Alberta resources without the consent of the government of Alberta. Frankly, all provinces should be given that same respect for their resources. And fourth, the federal government must provide to Alberta the same per capita federal transfers and equalization as is received by the other three largest provinces, Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. We have no issue with Alberta continuing to subsidize smaller provinces with their needs, but there is no excuse for such large and powerful economies like Ontario, Quebec, BC, or Alberta to be subsidizing one another. That was never the intent of equalization, and it needs to end. If these points can be agreed to by the federal government, I am convinced.
This is great, stern negotiating tactics going in with Carney, and we're going to talk a minute about Carney going down to meet Trump tomorrow. So I'm sure we're going to be talking about that on tomorrow's episode. But the fact that he's having to negotiate with Trump and then with her, and Trump knows that he has this card to play with Carney. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very interesting.
It will not only make Alberta and Canada an infinitely stronger and more prosperous country, but will eliminate the doubts a growing number of Albertans feel about the future of Alberta in Canada.
Okay, we can stop it there. And I do want to. I did want to say this. This is the United States can really relate to this because they're really having this huge divide between states, and there's been talk about separation between the states. Yeah. Tim Pool is always talking about civil war and the United States dividing. California was talking about a separatist movement if Trump won, but that never happened. In the Canadian Constitution, since the 1980s, when Quebec tried to separate, it was put in that any province that wanted to separate could get enough signatures would be allowed to have a vote and potentially separate. Mm-hmm. So this is very interesting because this is a way for citizens to get respect back from the federal government and have the federal government treat them with dignity and respect their rights, because we all know what happened during the jibby jab time, and Canada was absolutely draconian, and the federal government overstepped its bounds, implemented a bunch of laws they still haven't taken back to this day. So this is an opportunity for provinces and people within those provinces to say, no, you're not going to dictate to us how it works. We're going to dictate to you. So I fully expect Mark Carney to potentially call a national emergency to try to avoid a separatist vote.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that would basically be one of the few ways he could try to avoid it. The easiest way.
I don't know if you could still avoid a vote with that, but potentially.
But actually doing it.
Yeah.
Because it does have to go through the parliament in some respect.
And the Canadian government is trying to use native tribes and native lands as a tactic to say you can't separate from Alberta, but that's not the case. It's already been put into law in Canada that if the people decide to separate from the rest of Canada, all parties must come to the table and negotiate final terms. Mm-hmm. So
also, Walker says, I'm late, sorry. Okay, Rafa, hello again.
And on this channel,
welcome.
if anybody's here and hasn't subscribed, I don't know, we probably don't have too many viewers tonight because it's new. But if you could subscribe, it really helps on this channel. We're trying to grow it. Also, every like on this channel really helps because the algorithm really doesn't know what this channel is yet.
Exactly. Because it's coming out of Mexico, but it's in English, but there was some Spanish somewhere.
Okay, we got a couple really good stories here. By the way, I completely support that Alberta separatist movement. I really want to see it go forward. So we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Okay, how do we start this one? This one has like 3 different parts to it. Okay, what article did you have? I said get the 7 major questions.
Yes.
Okay, let's bring that up.
So 7 major questions about Trump's plan to tariff foreign films.
Okay, so before we read the article, we'll basically explain. Trump kind of announced on a whim that he's going to put a 100% tariff on any films that aren't filmed in the United States. This is going to absolutely cripple the Canadian film industry. We used to work in the Canadian film industry and work with the unions, specifically the Teamsters, 155. Hello, if anybody's watching. But Doug Ford, one of the premiers in Canada, came out with a statement. We're going to show that. Gavin Newsom saying he's not going to cooperate with this. People are really in limbo because they don't know the nuts and bolts of what Trump's going to do here. He's trying to save the film industry that kind of turned their back on Trump himself.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But let's hear this article.
So, 7 major questions about Trump's plan to tariff foreign films. President Trump announced a plan on Sunday to slap a 100% tariff on foreign-produced films, promoting a slew of questions in Hollywood, starting with, runway production. Runaway production has been debated for decades, and in recent months, there's been a push for federal policy to address it, but nobody in Hollywood is asking for a tariff on foreign-made films. Here are 7 major questions left unanswered for Trump's proposal. Will he do that? Trump only said he was authorizing
Just read the
US.
7 questions.
Okay. Will he do that? Can he do that? How would he do that? When would he do that? What about TV? Who wants this? If not this, what does Hollywood want?
Okay, well, I'm going to say this. We used to work in the film industry, and we know the ins and outs, especially in the Canadian film industry, but it works like this all around the world. The Canadian dollar is a lot weaker than the American dollar. So when a U.S. film comes to Canada, it's already a 30% discount because they're buying everything in American dollars. Mm-hmm. They get another 30% tax discount from the government of British Columbia itself. So that's a 60% discount. Most other countries like Australia, the UK have similar tax breaks, and their dollar is weaker than the United States as well. So it's very hard to stop for the U.S. to stop filming companies from leaving the country. Even if the studio is based in the U.S., they're starting to film more and more and more overseas.
Because that was my question, and that's where it would be interesting. Would it count as a foreign film if it's being produced by a U.S. studio?
Yes.
It would?
It has to be. He wants it filmed in the U.S., I'm guessing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought this up. It wouldn't have made sense. So there is also another layer to this. Netflix, this would kill the Canadian filming industry straight up, because everything that they produce there is produced for America. On every film set I've ever worked, they take the Canadian flags down and they put American flags up because they're trying to sell to an American audience. Mm-hmm. But they do like to film in Canada because Netflix Canada requires a certain percentage of the content filmed on there to be made in Canada. So they can make it in Canada, but put American flags up and pretend like it's America because it looks the same. All the people that live there can pass for Americans. So it's a win-win situation to film in Canada for studios, but not for America and not for Donald Trump, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, the Hollywood industry will be panicking. All the way at the bottom is when it was asking, like, what do they actually want? Apparently subsidies. But of course, like the tax breaks and the way that it's set up right now is super beneficial to not so much even like Canada itself, but to the U.S. film industry that can go and make it for way cheaper outside of the U.S. And I mean, how would it impact the U.S. film industry if the cost goes way up?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know. There's a lot of changes that need to be made in the film industry, and there's a lot of changes that are coming that I don't know are necessarily the kind of changes that I want to see. AI is going to be coming into major films, things like this. I think AI might be good for independent films. I want to see films with smaller budgets and much better scripted, but major studios don't want to go in that direction.
And like original stories, stop copying from other things you've already done. I'm talking to Disney.
Because the budget of actually manufacturing the movie, even if it goes way up, is still going to be way under what they're spending. Because they like to make these $100 million movies. So it doesn't matter when you're making a $100 million movie if you have to spend another $2 or $3 million. But when you are making lower budget movies, it does really affect it.
Yeah. So maybe it'll help hurt the indie industry.
But also I'm wondering, like, yes, he can tariff the movie for theaters, but how is he going to tariff it for streaming?
I don't know.
And even if he is able to tariff them for streaming, wouldn't people just use a VPN and log into the Netflix one for a different country?
Probably.
So
I'm guessing it's theater.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to really help streaming.
Should I try to look it up?
No, not right now, because I'll probably bring this up more as the story's just developing. But what I am saying is this is going to really help streaming services overall.
Yeah, so he didn't say how he would do it.
No, I already know he said nothing about it. That's why they're asking all these questions. Okay, let's move on to Doug Ford actually talking about this now. And before we get into Doug Ford, which is a Canadian MP of Ottawa, Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California, said he was not going to cooperate with this. He was also trying to make tax breaks and stuff, but he just can't compete with foreign countries whose dollar is worthless compared to the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Hold on, Doug Ford, right there. There's the fat boy. Oh, and this is Doug Ford. He's the MP of Ottawa.
So like the governor of Ottawa.
His brother used to be the MP of Alberta, and he was a crackhead. He got busted for...
You can't say that.
Oh, I can't. He got busted for doing those drugs, and his career was over after
gross.
that.
Yeah.
He's now passed away.
He passed away. Yeah.
But this is Doug Ford.
Well, it's every day something new with him. You know, we built our film industry up to about $3 billion. Our goal is $5 billion. But again, he's just going after the entire world.
And by the way, Doug Ford's supposed to be a conservative. He is trying to become the head of the Conservative Party, but he acts like a liberal. He makes deals with the liberals. He might as well wear a liberal hat because...
It's obviously backfiring. You see his polls, the worst in 80 years. He's down to 39% of approval rating. And I think he has to start moving quick before the midterms because it's not going to look good for him.
Well, it doesn't look good when Mark Carney, who's this gentleman's boss, is going down to negotiate with Trump today. Today he arrived. Tomorrow he's going to negotiate. And you have your primary MP. Ottawa is the biggest province, the most important province in Canada.
The parliament is.
And when he's talking like that, this could sabotage the negotiations.
Maybe. I mean, we do know Trump gets butthurt quite easily, so...
But he's talking about the Ottawa film industry's $3 billion. The Vancouver one's even bigger than that.
British Columbia is huge.
But he needs to... This could destroy Ottawa's film industry. Rather than talking tough, maybe go negotiate.
Yeah, so now Gavin Newsom says Trump has no authority to impose 100% movie tariffs. Studios scrambling to find out what POTUS wants or what he means.
Well, I almost feel like this would be good for Gavin Newsom in his state.
To increase production?
This would increase production.
But it would be more expensive to do production, so...
Yeah, but what does he care? It's bringing money into his state and into the U.S., and it's forcing...
So I'm guessing he's now panicking that maybe, like, studios will also start panicking because they can't finance all the stuff the way they were financing it before.
Yeah,
maybe.
It'll be interesting. Something's going on behind the scenes here because he should be excited about this, and he's panicking about it. So,
his podcast is not doing very well.
He's also very connected with China, the Chinese government. Yes. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one I really did like. This is factory workers in Shenzhen. Did you have that one?
No.
Let's see if oh my God, where's the? It disappeared on me.
I had you said Daniel Smith something.
Oh, here it is. No, this is the vape testers.
I don't know if we can show vaping on YouTube, but
yeah,
okay.
we will.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, let's go to the 3-shot. I think it's a little bit better for that.
Oh, this is old.
Oh, you had seen this?
I've seen this.
Oh,
yeah.
I've never seen this.
A lot of people have seen it.
So this step kind of blows my mind. Our friend here is testing each one of them. I'm not sure if it's for taste or volume or I'm
Who's
not
that guy?
sure precisely what.
He's making
I'm
a
also curious
documentary.
if he is inhaling or if it's like a cigar, just quick taste test and exhale.
这些都没问题吗？
He's young.
I almost feel there's still more. I almost feel like they should have a. I don't want this guy testing the vapes.
But yeah, of course not. Ew.
It's not healthy for him, but I don't want. It's not healthy for the person buying the
no,
vape,
ew.
你一天大概能
especially with stuff like the jibby jab. When that
Yeah.
stuff came around, you got the guys
It's a
test.
terrible disease.
能测多少个？
一天大概要测平均
7,000 to 8,000 tests per day. This guy does.
多的时候就1万
It can exceed 10,000. He says. Do you smoke after work? Yeah.
下班之后
I also smoke after work. And that's it. And we'll go there.
Oh, to me?
I just need to switch it.
Okay.
Well, would you have any? What do you?
No, it's
I
gross.
put it in there because you are addicted to vapes.
I'm not addicted to vapes.
You wake up vaping.
Well,
you
I
go to
didn't
bed
want the
vaping.
audience to know that, but thank you for exposing me.
No problem. I feel like David Beckham exposing
Well,
his wife.
I mean, we do know that China has a disgusting vape industry, and a lot of the stuff that comes out of China is not properly tested or is tested in weird ways. And a lot of the liquids that come out that are not fully, go through the actual processing are the ones that were getting people sick. And then it became this huge thing about, oh, vapes are horrible for you, they make you sick. And then, for example, in the UK, vaping is actually used as a smoking cessation tool to get people off of cigarettes and into vaping and eventually to stop smoking, which is kind of the process I took. But
oh, and
I just think it's gross.
the former president AMLO, his son Chaco Flan, used to vape and he was fat. So the former president now banned vaping in Mexico,
Yes.
which is crazy.
Yes. So Walker says, looks like everything's pretty clean. I don't know if his mouth is clean, and I wouldn't want to, figure that out. And then Rafa says, off-topic questions. Did you connect with your old Mexican friends, or have you already made new ones?
We have no friends. We do the show.
I do have friends from before, and I have seen them, and I do still love them and stuff. But everybody's really busy, even in Vancouver. I mean, I have really close friends, and I have really close friends here. But every time you try to meet up with someone, I don't know what your experiences are being like in your late 20s, early 30s, but everybody's like super busy, or at least they think they're super busy. So nobody ever has time. And I thought it was just a Vancouver thing, but then here also, it's kind of hard to see friends just in general. Even when I would come for a vacation, I would try to see people. Everybody's always like super busy with work and the grind and etc. And in Vancouver, it's the exact same thing. Like I lived 4 or 5 blocks away from one of my best friends in Vancouver, and I would rarely see her because we were both always either working or having to do something.
Well, in
for
Canada,
work.
you had to work just to survive and barely pay the rent and barely have food money.
Yes.
Here, at least we're able to survive, but we're working
Kind of.
full time because
We're trying to get this to work as well. And then Walker says, the left in Latin America supporting China is a joke. China is becoming more powerful by violating the labor rights they claim to defend here. Exactly.
yeah.
And the fact that now they're partnering and want to partner in almost every single industry and like open up the door for them. And Rafa says, I always have friends in hand to go out.
Yeah, I'm starting to differ on my opinion with like China, because at least China is building permanent infrastructure. So for instance, Africa is now having to be somewhat industrialized and brought up to par, and they're having to give energy to them. The United States and the West is trying to give them green energy, so they can't build big manufacturing base. China and Russia are going in and trying to build nuclear facilities and things like this, which they can actually build a permanent manufacturing base on and rise in the world. So, I mean, as far as China helping third world countries, and they're helping them in much more long-term sustainable ways than the U.S. has done. I just don't like a lot of their communist ideology and things like that. So.
Oh, and on the topic of friends, I wanted to just quickly mention, like, it's funny that because, in part, I used to be very progressive, very on the left, very for all of the community and everything. A lot of my friends, and from like the school I went to here, which was also very progressive and open and etc., a lot of my friends are very on the left, I would say. Also in Canada, like I have a friend who works for that worked for the government. I have other friends that are very involved in business as well in Canada, and they're all very for a lot of the policies, for a lot of things that I am now against. But we have found a way to stay cordial, stay friendly, talk, be able to debate, discuss, and I think that's one of the most important things that really proves how friendship can go beyond just political opinions, and how political opinions aren't everything. They don't need to be everything. So like I would never stop speaking to a friend unless they did something disgusting, but just because of their political opinions or just because of how they think. I'm more interested into seeing how they think and what makes them believe those certain things, and maybe even debating and discussing it with them. But I have had friends, for example, that when they found out my terrible opinions, or that I kind of like Trump, or the whole thing that happened during the terrible years and the jabby jab and etc., I did lose some friends, but that just kind of made me see who the real people are, because the actual friends that even disagreed with me on that never kind of left.
Yeah,
So,
and people just like after when the situation happened with the jab and things like that and everything surrounding that, I stood up to the government. I wasn't taking shit. I was outspoken. We went to the border, and even after that, my political consciousness really awakened, and people just didn't want to talk to me after that.
yeah.
I was like,
Especially in Canada.
Especially in Canada, 90. It was the highest intake of the jab and things like that in Canada, and people were all on board with the propaganda, and the level of propaganda was just absolutely crazy. Woke ideology, LGBTQ ideology has just infested that place to such an extreme that the legislation, the people have just eaten it up. And if anybody disagrees with it, you will be shunned within that country.
Yeah. And I mean, in Canada, a lot of my friends were Mexican. So I think it's also different because like Canadian people that would somehow find out about my opinions or my views, or would find one of my videos, most of them would like completely change the way they spoke to me, their image they had of me or of us and Guy. So it is interesting to see how, I think even in Mexico, even with all of the, craziness that there is politically, people are a little bit more open to debate and discuss still, and they value friendship, family, etc. above political opinions. I find that in the US and Canada, people value political opinions and their positions to the point where they stop speaking to their family members.
I had a fake vaccine passport, so I would get a fake jab passport so I can get into restaurants, and everybody in that restaurant had to be jabbed, so everybody thought they were safe to talk at that point. Yeah. And they would just talk about how they wanted people to not be alive anymore, things like that. They said it a lot more aggressively than that amongst friends groups, and that would be the conversation in a lot of these bars, and it was crazy.
And the ones that, like, if you had family members that didn't agree with you, they would stop talking to you. And I just think that's insane. Like, I would never stop talking to a family member ever, almost, for any reason, unless they did something disgusting or horrible or like actually terrible as a person, but not because of something they believe in. Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
And if I'm going to stand up to the government who was threatening major consequences, and to my employers who were threatening to fire me at the time, I had no problem standing up to one individual trying to shame me. Nobody's going to shame me. Okay.
I will, but
you can try.
Rafa asks, was Guy also a leftist when you met? Not really. He was very apolitical. I was kind of almost fully done transitioning towards common sense thinking, at least. And I was very into politics, involved, wanting to read and like watch podcasts and Joe Rogan, etc. And I mean, you kind of knew who Joe Rogan was because of MMA and stuff, but he tried to stay very off of the news, I think. And then the whole shebang happened.
Yeah, no, I was never really that liberal.
No.
But
just like disconnected from politics.
But I would say if people would ask me questions, I had a lot of libertarian beliefs, and I think I still do have a lot of libertarian beliefs. Yeah. But now I'm much more conservative.
But you were undefined and like apolitical, like a lot of people in Canada are. They just tune out and they don't care. They know nothing about the news. And I would speak about things, and you'd be like, yeah. And
but
then,
once I woke up, once the government started stepping on my fundamental rights, which I knew my red lines, even though I was not political, nobody's going to force something into my body. Nobody's going to force my speech or compel my speech, things like that. When they started crossing the red lines, I really started asking a lot of political questions and really started to tune in.
But it is funny because during the start of the terrible years in 2020, I would watch like Donald Trump and I would see what he was saying. And I would sometimes say like, oh, I agree with this. I agree with that. That's interesting. Oh, watch this clip of him saying this. And he would bother me, calling me baby Trump.
Well, I didn't like Trump at the time because
of the Canadian media.
Yeah. Canadian media only showed one side, and they were even harder on Trump than the American media. And because I wasn't politically tuned in, I didn't know a lot of it was lies. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying the guy is a perfect guy, but it's not the way they painted him. And when I did wake up and I started researching, I said most of the stuff is lies. So, I mean, I'll at least give him a chance because I do agree with some of his policies.
Yeah. And then I would take his whole calling me baby Trump as a compliment, not as the insult he thought it was at the time.
Okay, let me see if there's...
And then he started calling me baby Hillary instead to bother me.
Okay.
I like to say I helped his awakening.
Okay, let's head over to RUMBLE really quick. Okay. And I'm just going to talk about one or two stories over there and then we'll end the show.
Sure, because we're making them a bit shorter now because we have 3 daily. So
yeah.
But in all in all, it ends up being more content, and sometimes we can go a bit over. But tonight,
and if anybody is going to tune in tomorrow, I'm going to have a show at noon, probably around 12:15 tomorrow, and then in the afternoon, you can
Mexico City time.
Yep, and then we're going to have another show, your show at 8:00 p.m.
in Spanish,
and then at this one at 9:15.
Yes, again Mexico City time. If you haven't liked and subscribed to this channel, please do so. It's really small right now because we were not really paying attention to it. But if you can, please like and subscribe before you leave. And head over to RUMBLE.
And we got a big story we can't talk about on there. That's why we're headed over there.
Yes.
Okay.
To finish out the show. So Walker, Rafa, we'll see you there. And everybody else as well. Hold on. Okay. One
there was
second.
5 people watching.